In a world that constantly demands your voice, your validation, your energy, how often do you pause and ask yourself, am I listening to me? You know, people spend their whole lives trying to be everything for everyone. They chase approval like it's oxygen, begging to be seen, to be understood, to be applauded, especially by the ones closest to them. But here's the hard truth. If you keep pouring yourself into everyone else's cup while yours stays empty, eventually there'll be nothing left of you. That's why the first thing you need to understand deep down in your bones is that you are the priority. Not in a selfish way, not in a forget everybody else kind of way, but in a necessary way. Because if you don't invest in yourself, no one else will. When you start choosing yourself, it'll feel uncomfortable at first. You'll feel the guilt. You'll hear the whispers, maybe even from your own family. You've changed. You don't call as much. You think you're better now. But listen to me. Growth will always feel like betrayal to the ones who benefited from your silence, from your people-pleasing, from your constant availability. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to become who you were born to be. Focusing on yourself isn't just about eating healthy, working out, or chasing a bag. It's about checking in with your soul. It's about unlearning the lies you've carried since childhood. It's about sitting with your pain, facing your patterns, and doing the slow, uncomfortable work of becoming emotionally whole. That's the kind of investment no one claps for. No Instagram story, no family group chat celebration, no applause, just you and the quiet decision to not be the same person next year. And yes, sometimes even your own family won't get it. They might think you're distant, cold even. But let me ask you something. What's the point of being close to everyone if you're far from yourself? You think loyalty means access? Just because someone's known you your whole life doesn't mean they know who you're becoming. And if they don't respect that evolution, they don't get to be front row for it. People will try to guilt trip you into staying small. They'll say, but we're family. Listen, family is not a free pass to violate your peace. Blood doesn't excuse toxicity. Just because they raised you doesn't mean they get to define you. You owe them respect, but not unlimited access. There is no growth in a space where you're constantly defending your right to evolve. And hear me clearly, focusing on yourself doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you start loving them from a place of wholeness, not obligation. It means the version of you they get is no longer the one who says yes when she means no. It's no longer the one who bends just to keep the peace. It's a version of you that's aligned, grounded, and clear on who you are. So invest. Invest in your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Invest in your mindset, your boundaries, your dreams. Buy the book, take the trip, go to therapy, sleep more, work out, drink water, say no. Learn to love your own company. Silence isn't loneliness, it's power. It's you reclaiming your time, your energy, your direction. And don't be surprised when people and they don't understand. When they stop calling, let them. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become. Some people only loved you because you stayed small, because you needed them, because you were predictable. But when you start choosing yourself, that disrupts the script. That shakes the dynamic. That exposes who was really for you and who was just comfortable with your dysfunction. That's the price of elevation. That's the toll you pay when you leave the old version of yourself behind. You lose comfort. You lose certain connections. But what you gain, oh, it's worth every drop. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain self-respect. And most importantly, you gain you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for working on yourself in silence. You don't owe updates, progress reports, or approval slips. Your life is not a group project. This chapter is yours. Write it how you need to. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one who has to live with your choices. You are the one who has to sleep with your regrets or your peace. So choose you fully, unapologetically, relentlessly. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Silence is not weakness. It's not avoidance. It's not defeat. Silence, when chosen with intention, is a form of power. In a world where everyone is shouting, posting, explaining, defending, reacting, the one who can stay calm, the one who can sit back, breathe, and move in silence, that's the one in control. That's the one who's really leveled up. You don't always have to respond. You don't always have to explain why you're doing what you're doing, especially to people who've already made up their minds about you. See, most people don't ask to understand. They ask to judge, to gossip, to twist, to project. And the more you talk, the more ammunition you give them. That's why silence isn't just peace, it's protection. And I know what you might be thinking, but they'll misunderstand me if I don't say anything. Let them. Let them misunderstand. Let them think you're cold, distant, selfish. Because the ones who are really for you don't need long explanations to trust your intentions. And the ones who demand constant updates are usually the ones who can't stand the fact that you're not giving them control anymore. When you stay silent, you take your power back. You move different. You stop reacting to every opinion, every comment, every little jab that tries to pull you out of alignment. That silence, that's where you build your mindset. That's where you protect your peace. Because when you're constantly talking, constantly explaining, constantly trying to prove something, you leave no room for listening, no room for growth, no room for hearing your own voice over the noise. Some people will poke at you just to get a reaction. They'll say things to pull you back into the old version of yourself, the one that over-explains, the one that apologizes too much, the one that used to shrink. And you want to clap back, you want to defend yourself. But listen, silence is louder than any argument you could ever give. Silence says, I don't need your approval anymore. Silence says, I'm not the same person you used to control. Silence says, I've outgrown this conversation, especially when it comes to family. That's where it gets hard, because the moment you start setting boundaries, the moment you stop telling them every detail of your life, they might feel offended. They'll ask, why don't you talk like you used to? And the answer is simple, because growth taught me not everything needs to be said, because healing taught me peace is better than proving a point, because maturity taught me that silence is how I keep myself grounded when the world wants to spin me around. Silence isn't absence, it's alignment. You're not ignoring people, you're honoring your space. You're not being rude, you're being rooted. And if they can't respect that, if they can't handle not being in your business 24/7, that's their problem to solve, not yours. You see, when you're silent, you start to notice things. You start to hear the way people talk about you when you're not around. You start to feel the difference between connection and convenience. You start to realize who really values you versus who just values the version of you that was easy to control. That silence, it reveals truth. It shines a light on everything that was hiding in the noise. And here's the thing, not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your plans, your pain, your progress. Some things are too sacred to be spoken aloud. Some dreams need to be protected in silence until they bloom. That's why you don't announce everything. That's why you move in silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Silence gives you time to think. It gives you time to regroup. It gives you time to ask yourself, is this really worth my energy? Is this helping me grow? Or is it just feeding my ego? 9 times out of 10, the things we want to respond to don't even deserve a second thought. Let them talk. Let them assume. You stay focused. Because silence also creates mystery. And mystery builds value. When people can't predict your every move, they watch more closely. When you don't give them access to your mind, they start wondering how you keep winning. And the truth is, you're just not wasting energy on things that don't build you. You're not arguing over every opinion. You're not sharing your next step before it's ready. That's not being secretive. That's being strategic. And it's funny, people fear what they can't control. They fear silence because it means they don't know what you're thinking. They can't read you. They can't manipulate you. And so they'll try harder to provoke a response, to shake your peace. But the real flex is not reacting. The real strength is keeping your mouth shut and your standards high. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. One of the hardest pills you'll ever have to swallow in this life is that not everyone will understand your journey. And that includes the people you love the most. Your family, your day ones, the people who saw you grow up, who say they know your heart, and yet when you start changing, when you start walking a different path, doing things differently, moving in silence, healing your wounds, setting boundaries, they look at you like you've become someone else. And maybe you have. That's the point. You weren't meant to stay the same. See, we have this deep emotional desire to be understood, especially by our family. We want them to get it, to see our hearts, to cheer us on. But here's the truth. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes the people closest to you will be the most confused, the most critical, the most resistant to your growth. And it's not always because they're bad people. It's because your evolution threatens their comfort. When you change, it shines a light on what they haven't done, on what they haven't healed. And it's easier to question you than it is for them to look in the mirror. You might hear things like, "You used to be different," or "You don't spend time with us like you used to," and that guilt will creep in. That voice will whisper, "Maybe I am being selfish. Maybe I should go back to how things were." But hear me, growth is not selfish. Healing is not disrespect. Focusing on your peace doesn't mean you're turning your back on love. It means you're learning how to love yourself properly for the first time. There's a deep kind of loneliness that comes with transformation. It's the kind of loneliness that shows up when you're doing the work, real work, late nights with your thoughts, waking up to pray or reflect, saying no when you used to say yes, walking away when you used to stay and argue. That kind of silence can feel heavy. And when your family doesn't understand what you're doing, when they misread your silence as distance or your peace as pride, it stings even more. But listen, the misunderstanding is not your responsibility to fix. You don't have to shrink just to make people comfortable. You don't have to explain every step of your healing process to make others feel better about your progress. The people who love you with maturity will support you, even if they don't fully understand you. But the people who only loved you when you were easy to access, easy to predict, easy to control, they will struggle with the new you. And that's okay. You are not for everyone. And yes, sometimes you're not even for your own family. And I get it. Family means everything to some of us. It's where we learned how to love, how to speak, how to survive. But that doesn't mean they get to be the editors of your story. That doesn't mean you have to keep showing up in rooms that drain you just because someone shares your last name. You can love them and still keep your distance. You can honor them and still choose peace over proximity. You can respect them and still say, "This version of me needs space to grow." And don't confuse understanding with love. Some people may never understand your journey, but they'll still choose to love you through it. And others will claim to love you, but only the version of you that benefits them. That version that says yes without hesitation. That version that sacrifices herself for the sake of keeping the peace. But that's not real love. That's convenience, and you deserve more than that. It's okay to outgrow people you were once deeply connected to. It's okay to feel the pain of that separation. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you real. You're not abandoning anyone. You're answering a call, a higher one, a deeper one that's pulling you toward your purpose. toward healing, toward truth. And sometimes to answer that call, you've got to walk alone. Some people can only love the version of you that doesn't challenge their limits. But you weren't made to live small. You weren't made to spend your life trying to fit into a mold someone else shaped for you. You were made to grow, to break generational patterns, to redefine what strength and love and legacy look like. That's going to upset people. And that's okay. You don't need a round of applause for choosing yourself. You don't need every family member to understand your boundaries. You don't need to defend your healing. You just need to keep walking, keep growing, keep showing up for yourself even when it's quiet, even when it's lonely, even when the people closest to you don't get it. Because this journey is yours, not theirs. Let's talk about energy. Not in some abstract, vague way, but in a real day-to-day practical sense. Because every time you say yes to something that drains you, every time you let someone cross a boundary you never enforced, every time you explain yourself to someone who's already decided not to listen, you're leaking energy. Little by little, you're pouring out what should have been protected. And before you even realize it, you're waking up tired, irritated, and disconnected from yourself. That's not life, that's survival. And you were not put on this earth just to survive. You have to protect your energy at all costs. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because your energy, your peace, your clarity, your spirit is your foundation. When that's compromised, everything else starts to fall apart. Your relationships suffer, your creativity suffers, your focus, your health, your joy. It all takes a hit. So you've got to stop giving out access like it's free. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone deserves to know your thoughts, feel your spirit, or walk with you on this path. And I know that can sound harsh, especially when we're talking about family, especially when we were raised to believe that family is everything and you never turn your back on blood. But let me tell you something. Protecting your energy isn't turning your back on anyone. It's turning your face toward your purpose. It's saying, I love you, but I love myself too. And I can't keep allowing your chaos to disturb my calm. That's not hate. That's healing. You have to start asking yourself real questions. Who do I feel drained around? Who do I feel I have to perform for just to be accepted? Who guilt trips me every time I choose peace over their problems? Because sometimes the loudest noise in your life is coming from the people you're trying so hard to hold on to. And if you're not careful, their noise will drown out your inner voice. The one that's been trying to guide you, the one that's been whispering, let go. And I'm not saying you have to cut everyone off. I'm not saying walk around with a wall up, guarded and cold. I'm saying discern. I'm saying filter. I'm saying put up boundaries. Not as punishment to others, but as protection for yourself. Because your peace should never be on the negotiation table. Your joy shouldn't be sacrificed for someone else's comfort. And your spirit wasn't built to carry everyone else's baggage while yours stays unpacked. When you start protecting your energy, people will notice. They'll feel the shift. Some won't like it. They'll say you're distant, that you're acting brand new, that you've changed, and you have. Because the version of you that tolerated disrespect in the name of keeping the peace no longer exists. The version of you that kept quiet to avoid confrontation has retired. You're not cold. You're just no longer available for emotional chaos. Some people will try to make you feel guilty for taking space, for not answering every call, for not showing up every time they have a crisis. But you're not their emotional dump site. You're not their therapist. You're not responsible for fixing what they refuse to heal in themselves. That's not love. That's manipulation. And love without respect is not love, it's control. The truth is, the more you protect your energy, the more you start to recognize how sacred it is, how much you gave away without realizing it. You'll look back and think, why did I stay so long in that conversation? Why did I keep explaining myself to someone who never cared to listen? and it'll sting a little, but it'll also free you, because awareness is the first step to alignment. When you start choosing yourself, protecting your space, and honoring your energy, something beautiful happens. You get clarity. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop overthinking every decision. You stop performing. You start breathing deeper, sleeping better, feeling more connected to who you really are. And that version of you, that version doesn't need to be loud, doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need to beg for understanding. That version walks in quiet strength. That version moves with intention. That version knows, I don't have to explain my peace to anyone. So if protecting your energy makes you the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Let them talk. Let them spin the narrative. You stay grounded. You stay rooted. You stay aligned, because peace is expensive and you've paid too much to give it away for free. There's a powerful shift that happens when you realize you don't need to explain yourself anymore, that you're no longer obligated to lay out your heart on a table just to be accepted. See, we were taught from an early age that validation should come from outside. Approval from parents, praise from teachers, understanding from friends, acceptance from family. So we grow up explaining, justifying, defending, making sure everyone's okay with the moves we make. But the truth is, the more you explain yourself to people who aren't even trying to understand, the more you delay your own growth. Let me say it plain. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that fits their comfort zone. That includes family. That includes people who watched you grow up and now feel entitled to a version of you they can recognize and control. But you're not here to stay familiar. You're here to evolve. And evolution doesn't require permission. It doesn't need approval. It just needs courage. The version of you that always had to explain your silence, your boundaries, your decisions, that version was built on fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being left out. Fear of losing love. But here's what I need you to understand. Love that demands you constantly explain yourself isn't love. It's control, wrapped in concern. And peace isn't found in convincing others. It's found in finally accepting that you don't need to be understood to be aligned. You don't have to keep going in circles trying to prove you're not being selfish. You don't need to explain why you didn't show up to the event, why you didn't respond to that text, why you needed a break. You don't have to break yourself apart just to hand someone a piece of your truth that they'll only twist and throw back at you. You've done enough of that. And where did it leave you? Exhausted, frustrated, still unseen. I'm not saying don't communicate. I'm saying stop bleeding in front of people who bring their own knives. I'm saying protect your voice. Choose silence over performance. Choose peace over the pressure to always be understood. Because truth be told, some people don't want an explanation. They want an excuse to keep you in a role that benefits them. Especially in family, this runs deep. There's this unspoken expectation that you have to justify any change. Why are you acting different? Why don't you call like you used to? Why are you so quiet? But let me tell you something. Just because they're your family doesn't mean they're entitled to your process. Some things are sacred. Some healing is private. Some transformation can't be narrated in a way that others will understand, even if you tried. You ever notice how much energy you lose trying to explain your peace to people committed to chaos? That's because some folks can only hear you through the filter of their own dysfunction. And no matter how honest or calm or kind you are, they'll twist your words to fit their pain. So instead of talking in circles, you choose stillness. Not because you've got nothing to say, but because you finally learned that not every explanation deserves your breath. You don't owe anyone your emotional blueprint. You don't owe them a step-by-step guide of why you're choosing better for yourself. You don't have to lay out your healing journey like a roadmap for them to approve. This season is sacred. This silence is divine. And the less you explain, the more peace you preserve. And I'll tell you this. Once you stop over-explaining, You'll start to feel free in ways you didn't even know were possible. You'll reclaim energy you didn't realize was leaking. You'll begin to trust your intuition more because you're no longer asking others to validate it. That confidence that comes from within, it can't be shaken by misunderstanding. It's built on something stronger than approval. It's built on alignment. And yes, people will say you've changed, but they won't see the nights you cried yourself to sleep wondering if silence made you the bad guy. They won't see the weight it took to walk away quietly instead of lashing out. They won't see the battles you fought just to protect the fragile parts of yourself that are finally healing. And they don't need to. Because this season, it's not for show. It's for growth. You'll start to notice something too. The people who really see you, the ones who love you in truth, they won't need constant explanations. They'll respect your silence. They'll honor your boundaries. They'll understand without needing a detailed report. Because real connection doesn't demand performance. It holds space for presence. So stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop shrinking just to fit back into spaces that no longer align with your spirit. You've worked too hard to water yourself down just so someone else can feel comfortable. And if your silence feels too